our speaker today is Alan Rasmussen. Alan is employed with Encompass Community Supports in Culpeper, Virginia as the prevention manager. He's worked with this organization since October 2003 with a focus on suicide and substance abuse prevention. Alan is board counseling licensed and qualified mental health professional to work with adults and children. He has been a professor for the Bachelor of Interdisciplinary Studies program at the University of Virginia since 2002. He teaches 2 liberal studies seminars entitled Good Cop, Bad Cop, an examination of the criminal justice system, and community perspectives in mental health disorders. Alan was previously employed as Chief Probation and Parole Officer for the Virginia Department of Corrections from 1976 until he retired in 2003. He worked as the Chief Probation and Parole Officer of the Charlottesville and Culpeper Adult Probation and Parole Officers during his tenure. Alan graduated from the University of Virginia in 1975 with a Bachelor of Arts degree in Sociology, and in 1977 with a Master's degree in Counselor Education. As G mentioned, he's going to speak to us today on resiliency, and he's going to teach us some coping mechanisms to get through these difficult times. Alan.
I don't usually get introduced where I go, but that was nice. I appreciate that. Look, I'm excited to be here. I love to get excited, and coming here is one of the most favorite things I do. To be part of the speaker series during Mental Health Awareness Month, to be over here again talking and sharing information about building resilience. And one of the things I like to mention to people I'm talking to, I like to just share information that I hopefully you can use. And if you can't use it, maybe you can remember it and identify other people. I'm a gatekeeper mindset. I got a mindset about gatekeepers. I want people to be aware of things, and they may spot things in someone else and be able to link them to help. And if you need help, you can use this to help yourself. But I have spent a lot of my time in prevention. I came up with a resiliency-based life coping skills series of presentations, and I've got about 12 or 13 of them. A lot of them are on YouTube, but I like to do the coping skills presentations, and I like to talk about building resilience because it's it's bouncing back from difficulties, moving forward is a mindset. Life is going this way, it's not going backwards, so we keep moving forward with it, and we cope, we move along, and that kind of thing. So I'm going to give you some skills, and we'll lay it out from there. So I appreciate again being with you all. So and again, when you look at the title, I'm not used to making a presentation with that much verbiage in the title, but this has many components to it. I am going to talk about building resilience. I'm going to talk about hope, which I think, if you think about hope, what is hope? I want you to be thinking about that, and I'll give you my thoughts about it. I've researched some things, but to maintain hope during stressful, distressing times, that hope can be powerful. And so, let me start off with that before I get going. Why is hope so vital? To have hope is to want something that makes your life better in some way. Hope can help make a challenging present situation more bearable, and can also have a positive impact on our lives. Being able to picture a better future can actually motivate us to take the steps that can make it happen. I like that visualization. But just envisioning something hopeful gives a person a moment of happiness. According to psychology today, it can make present difficulties much easier to bear. Hope is part of everyone's life. Everyone hopes for something. It is part of being a human being. Hope helps us define what we want in our future. And for some, hope might mean always looking on the bright side and seeing challenges as opportunities. That's a part of the resiliency stuff I'm going to talk about. For others, as Dr. Judith Rich writes, hope is a match in a dark tunnel, a moment of light just enough to reveal the path ahead and ultimately the way out. You know, I'm gonna stop a minute, because sometimes in the work I do with suicide prevention, people are in distress, they need help, and when they have that distress, I always say the blinders go on. They can't think clearly, they can't see much light, they can't see a way forward. And I always say, I'm gonna get right in that deep dark hole with them. I'll give them a match to give them enough light to get out of that hole. You know, so that it can be powerful. And when you look, Merriam-Webster's definition makes hope seem close to a wish, to cherish a desire with anticipation, to want something to happen or be true. Hope in general means a desire for things to change for the better. And again, hopelessness can be described as living without passion, positive expectations, or enthusiasm. This can become painful, but feeling hopeless does not have to be permanent. We live in challenging and uncertain times. You all know that. All you gotta do is look at the news. We want to stay safe and healthy, and we want to be secure financially. We can sometimes live in fear and experience feelings of anxiety and vulnerability. I don't like that feeling vulnerable, like something can get me. I like to be the sound of what I'm doing is safe. Now more than ever is the time for everyone to develop and embrace the qualities and characteristics of highly resilient individuals and work to maintain our physical, emotional, and mental health. And that's why I like talking about this during this Mental Health Awareness Month. But getting what you hope for involves planning, determination, and motivation. So today, I'm going to provide some information and tips on how you can build your resilience and maintain hope during stressful times. So, you know, when you look at what is resiliency, I like to put the definition out here: a person's ability to absorb high levels of disruptive change, bounce back, and actually even excel in times of change and uncertainty, and that's without acting in dysfunctional ways. Now, I don't know, when I look at that, I'm hoping you see it like I do. That sounds powerful to me. I could be in times of change and uncertainty, and I can still excel and keep moving forward. You know, the train's going this way, our life's going forward. And so that's powerful. If you can do that, that would be nice. So I'm going to help you be able to do that. And I'd like to first start out talking about reaction patterns, because when you're talking about resilience, you know, sometimes when something goes on, the way we react emotionally to it can affect our ability to move forward. You know, so it's in our daily lives. I think you can use this when there's something like stress or an adversity, change, whatever gets you emotionally worked up. How do we react to things like that? People can get angry. And look, I got a system here. I got red means stop. It's not moving forward. When you see green, we're moving in the right direction. So we want to avoid getting angry. I mean that full-blown anger where you explode, you get anger, throw things, yell, scream, and things like that. That can happen to people. And sometimes people go numb. They take everything that's going on inside and they don't do anything about it. They're confused, they're not sure what steps to take forward, and that can just swirl around inside of people. It can make them sick, physically sick and emotionally sick. You know, just that in and of itself. And I always like to say, when something goes on, it's okay to be upset. That's different from anger. Upset is expressing your feelings in a useful way. Hey, I don't like what's going on here, you know, and express how you feel about it without getting angry, because that always leads to, but what am I going to do about it? You know, I don't like this, but what am I going to do? And so that's the words that keep you moving forward. What am I going to do? What steps can I take? And you can make yourself a victim, but I've got that as a red light too. I don't teach people how to be victims, okay? I like people to be resilient, advocate for themselves, move forward, and be safe and healthy. So you can then begin to cope with whatever's going on. So that's where you start to develop these strategies, these coping skills, all these programs. I've got like 13 of them out there right now that help people cope with whatever's going on and move forward. And so when you do that, you're beginning to resil. That's the action word for resiliency. So you're beginning to bounce back, move forward. And when you do that, you begin to see the light. You know, the light, the sun comes up. It's a beautiful day. and I'm moving forward. And I'm not teaching people to survive, I'm teaching them to thrive. The information I give you, you're gonna thrive. Whatever's going on, you're gonna adjust to it, make changes, and move forward, be successful, and thrive. Learn something new, evolve. So when you look at these emotional reactive patterns, you can see this. Emotional states do affect a person's ability to be resilient, move forward, and that kind of thing. It's positive emotions broaden and strengthen that ability. And I always like this quote, it's not the situation all the time, it's our response to it. How are we responding? It is a pattern that we always respond like that instead of saying, hey, I'm gonna knock that off. What's going on here? Let me check it out. What steps do I need to take to move forward, manage this? What help do I need to find to help me do that? And that kind of thing. Start thinking and moving forward. And we can accept responsibility for our reactions. In this presentation, this is one thing you can start doing right here, right now. It's just say, I'm not going to get angry. I'm not going numb. I'm going to express my feelings in a useful way. Then I'm going to come up and get help, find a plan to move forward, and take charge of whatever's going on and make the best of it. So that's something we can do now, is control our reactions. And when something goes on, I always like to examine it. I like to critically think it over. So what happened? How did I react? Could I do better? Is there something I should do different? So it's good and what did I learn from this? That's the key. If you learn something from whatever goes on in adversity, it can make you stronger. I'm educated more about it. I'm more informed. It's positive. And so always keep that good spirit. Keep that good energy. Keep that mindset on. I'm going to keep good energy and good spirit. So positive emotions. Let's talk about those. When I read this list, I always feel relaxed because I'm going to put negative emotions next, and then I get tight again. So when you have feelings of enjoyment, that relaxes you. You feel good, don't you? That's good energy there. Playfulness, not practical joking. You can get hurt if you do that. Jokes is not fun. But if you're playful, you can be lighthearted, have fun with whatever's going on. It can help you move through it. Contentment, to be content is wonderful. Laughing, I had something happen the other day. Someone told me a joke, and for some reason it hit me a certain way. I just started laughing. I couldn't stop laughing. I told a couple of my family members. They did the same thing too. It was really funny, but we needed a good laugh, man. I couldn't stop laughing. It felt good just to laugh. And so satisfaction, to be satisfied, to feel complete, and things like that. Warm relationships, that's what I love about this group. People connect. They connect with each other, get to know each other. You feel like you got somebody, a camaraderie, someone to talk to. That's nice, these groups. Love and affection, those are all positive emotions. When we look at those negative emotions, anxiety, we're going to talk about anxiety today as part of this presentation. I'm going to talk about stress. I'm going to talk about some mental health disorder stuff and throw anxiety in there too as well. And so it's a negative emotion, man, worrying and things like that. Fear, it can capture your mind and make the blinders go on. I'm afraid to move. I don't know what to do. It stops you from thinking clearly. Anger, we talked about that. Vulnerability, we mentioned that too. I don't ever want to see anybody feeling vulnerable, man. We need to have access to support, some help. And when something's going on, there's a response to move us in the right direction, to support us. Helplessness, hop and skip and jump to the hopelessness, which is, can be a deep, dark hole. And really, negative emotions, you can see that they narrow a person's range of thought. Like I said, the blinders go on. They can't think clearly. They can't see that path forward, and it limits their action choices. So when we have these positive emotions, keep them going. When something's going on, it helps us think clearly, come up with a plan, move forward, do a strategy that I'm going to talk about today, and utilize this information so we can move forward. Problem solving, and again, when you experience those positive emotions, what happens? It opens your mind to a broad range of new ideas. What's possible? Is there another option? What can I do? And these new ideas and impossible courses of action. And positive emotions increase resiliency. There's no doubt about it. And when you experience those positive emotions each day, it enhances your problem-solving abilities. Never try to make a decision when you're in that negative mindset and thinking like that. Wait till you have those positive emotions, you're thinking clearly, and you can see a way forward. That's the time to make decisions. So, characteristics of resilient people. I mentioned that they can express their feelings honestly, openly, and that is a key quality. They can express anger, love, dislike, appreciation, grief, whatever they're feeling, whatever is going on in their mind, they can open up and talk about it and express it openly, honestly. And I always like, the other piece is having people that will listen to you, to talk to, and they listen. Listeners are great for people who need to talk. And so everybody should have somebody it's good to be a listener, it's good to be a talker. Open up, find people who listen, and keep that going on. It's a good, healthy relationship. And look, resilient people can choose to suppress feelings when they believe it would be best to do so. They open up and let this stuff out at a good time. They may, if I need to talk to somebody, hey, I need a minute to talk with you. What's a good time? When can we do it? I need to express something. So you put it out there and you can set it up and do that. They don't just blow it out and get everything worked up. So optimism is a beauty too. Optimism, you like that? Feelings of optimism, what is that? When we're optimistic, guess what happens? We have better energy. We're optimistic about the day. I got some energy. I feel like moving forward, doing something. You feel more self-confident. I can take this on. I can do it. You look forward to the future. Hey, it looks bright. It doesn't look dark. And you do not feel trapped or discouraged. So reflect on how optimism has helped you through difficult times in the past. Or someone that they're optimistic all the time, how that helps them. You can see it. It's good stuff. It's good energy. They expect things to turn out well. That's that optimism. There it is again. Deep optimism. They have a high tolerance for ambiguity and uncertainty. I love that, because when things seem confusing, they take their time, they stop, collect their thoughts, dissect it, look at it, and be sure they have a clear understanding of the dynamics of whatever's going on. They don't just react impulsively and do things. They think it through and make sure they know what's the issue here. Let me make sure I know the issue and lay that out. And then I like paper. I like to write stuff down. Here's the issue. What steps can I take? Write them down, verbalize it, and go from there. The people that are resilient, they're a good role model of professionalism. I like professionalism. I talk about that a lot in work and try to get everybody to be like, let's be more professional in what we do. That's good stuff, good energy. They bring stability to crises and chaos. When things are out of control, they're the calming people. Hey, let's stop. Let's not overreact. Let's figure this stuff out. Let's find a way forward together. That kind of thing. And there it is right there. How can I interact with this, whatever's going on, so that things work out well for all of us? They have that mindset. And so taking charge, I always like to talk about taking charge. Things go on in your life. Sometimes we feel like other things are in control of us, but we can take charge. And I like this thing. Look, strain versus stress. I'm going to talk about stress today, but a lot of times with resiliency, I like to try to talk about viewing stress as something that's going to help you move forward through something, and you call it strain. Like an athlete, they work out, they strain their muscles, and they repeat that process. They rest and recover, work out some more, rest and recover, and over time their muscles get stronger. Same thing with our lives. When things go on, when we take it on, we work our way through it, take our time. It's straining us. This is stress, but it's straining me. And when it comes out the other side, things work out, you feel stronger. You're more self-confident. Your self-esteem is there. It grows because you have taken this on and handled it. And you can pat yourself on the back. I love that positive self-talk too. And if you guys ever see someone going through something, they move through it, celebrate that. Recognize that and tell people, hey, I'm proud of you. Help that self-esteem and confidence grow. So strain strengthens and challenges you, like I said, like athletes. Stresses your reaction to things. Something goes on, we get worked up, and we react to it, so that's how we react. You saw the reaction pattern chart. Stress is that victim blame syndrome a lot of times. Hey, I'm in this thing, I'm stressed over it. We can take charge of it. And I'm going to talk about that in the balance in the rest of this presentation. Taking charge of stressful situations by building our resiliency, taking charge, thinking through it, make a list, find healthy friends, talk to somebody about it, and move forward. Don't just stay in it and let it eat you up. So that's what I'm talking about. And so here's a good equation here. I love this. Look at what you are responsible for in your life. And I'd like I said, get a piece of paper, write it down. What am I responsible for? And then engage those responsibilities. Take a break like the athlete, and then re-engage it. Take a break, go back at it, and keep repeating the process, and you get a lot of things done. And you can feel good about it, and it's not wearing you down. And when you're done with it, celebrate that so you can pat yourself on the back. And again, focus on important things. What's really important in life? Get the paper out again. What am I responsible for? But what is really important to me? And what do I need to focus on so I'm not getting diverted into all kinds of different things and we get off track? So, and always keep that good spirit, okay? I always keep mentioning that. Keep that good energy. This puts you in charge of your life, okay? It's a good little process. And so let's talk about this stress a little bit, all right? We've vilified it. Now I'm going to talk about it, okay? What is stress? And a mental and physical state that is triggered by circumstances that are not ideal. Whatever's going on, we don't like it, and it's worrying us, and we get stressed over. Does that make sense? You agree with that? Okay. And then it's a physical manifestation of when we are feeling overwhelmed and unable to cope with life's demands. Go back to that emotional reaction pattern chart. Where are we in there? Hey, something's going on. I'm reacting. I'm going numb. I can't see a way forward. I can't get to the thing to express what I'm feeling in a useful way, come up with coping skills. I'm stuck. That's that numb place. It can be triggered in people of all ages. And it does not merely depend on the severity of the situation, but also on the capacity of the person and their ability to cope with it. You understand that? Sometimes a big amount of stress could wear somebody down, even if they have the ability to handle stress big time. But people who don't have that much ability to handle stress, it could be the same with a small amount of stress for someone like that. They don't have the skills. They don't know what to do. For us, somebody, it might be, hey, that's not that big a stress, but for them, it's big. It's severe, okay? So we don't judge that. Whatever they're feeling, and we honor that. And we talk about it, and we help build skills and that kind of thing. And so, the other side of stress, it can be a motivator. Have you ever been in a situation where you started to feel stressed? You go, hey, I'm going to get up and get moving, man. I'm going to take charge of this before it overwhelms me. It can be a motivator. So we can look at it that way too. So some common external causes of stress can be major life changes, work or school, whatever situation. So again, I'm teaching you all to be looking out for other people too. It's not just you. I like gatekeepers, a community of gatekeepers, but relationship difficulties can be major. They can be, and when you look at the suicide prevention work I can do and stuff like that, those can be monumental issues, okay? So we need to be alert. Financial problems can wear people down. Children and family, being too busy, maybe not being busy enough too. That could be a stressor for people. I'm looking for something to do. I can't figure out what to do. Common internal causes of stress can be pessimism. That we heard about optimism. What's that pessimism? It's the opposite, right? Everything looks dark, nothing's going to work out. That kind of mindset, that can cause stress. Inability to accept uncertainty. Uncertainty sometimes can wear people out. It can stress them out, And so we got to teach ourselves maybe to say, hey, we'll find a way forward. We'll take our time. Let's take care of ourselves emotionally, physically, mentally, and take steps to find out what's happening here, because it's not the end of it. We can move forward. There's a path forward. I'll get some help, somebody to help me. But some people, they can't accept that uncertainty. They want known things all the time. Life's full of uncertainty. Rigid thinking, lack of flexibility, like that open mind. You know, if you do the same thing, what's that old saying, doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result? That's that definition of insanity. They say that thing, right? So be open. Skip the rigid thinking. If there's something going on, this isn't working, what other steps can I take? It's an opportunity to learn, evolve, grow, be stronger. And and you might want to ask people, hey, I'm in this, what do you know about it? Go to an expert. Ask them, whatever it is, but somebody may have been through it and they got a different look at it. Another path forward. Negative self-talk, that can wear people down. If they do it enough, they can be negative, and that gets contagious with people sometimes too. We talked about that negativity. Unrealistic expectations or perfectionism. I don't know anybody in here, but I've seen the perfectionism, and it can lead to a lot of problems. You know what I mean? Because it just never is good enough. But so it's, not that I have people argue with me sometimes about that. Hey, I like things to be perfect and be, like if I'm doing a job or something, I want it to be perfect because that's what I do for a living. But, it's not always, I like people that want excellence, but you can't get perfection all the time in your life and everything else. There's got to be something to give. All or nothing attitude. Everything's got to be just like this, or I can't take it. They can't handle it. Difficulty managing time can be a stressor. People always ask me to do a time management presentation. I said, I don't do that. I do an action management presentation. What are you doing with the time you have? What actions are you taking? Because we all have 24 hours in a day, right? So it's not the time management. What am I doing with my actions? What do I need to do to make changes there? So I like to talk about that. And then let's talk about some signs and symptoms of stress. I want to mention this too. Signs are things we see. We can see them. I can see someone, maybe they don't look themselves today, they look a little sad, but I don't know what's going on unless I ask them and talk to them. Hey, you're not yourself today. If you know somebody, it's easier to do that. But I've done it with people, myself, I've done it with strangers. I've seen odd things go on. I'll walk up and say, hey, I'm noticing something, sir. I care about you. I'd like to ask you, what are you feeling? How are you feeling? What are you feeling? What are you experiencing? Things like that. And they'll open up. They'll stop and go, oh my gosh, this guy came up and was talking to me. I got stories of this where I don't even know him, but I've seen clues that I'm used to looking at. And I said, I got to explore. I want to be an explorer. I want to explore this sign and see if something's going on. And typically there is. And then you can help them and things like that. But I'm not asking you to go out and do that, but just remember that I like signs of what we see. Let it pique your interest. Symptoms are what somebody's feeling and experiencing. We're not going to know the symptoms unless we explore those signs. So let's all be explorers. You see something, check it out, see what's going on, and let's go from there. So there can be memory problems. They can be a sign of stress. Okay? People get forgetful and things like that. And look, I've experienced stuff I talk about. I can tell you now, something when I get rolling, working, a lot of things going on, I go, oh my gosh, I forget that. But I'm under stress some, so I can't remember everything all the time. So that bothers me, but it can happen. Inability to concentrate, think clearly. Poor judgment can make, I talked about making decisions. You want to calm down, think about it, analyze it, then move forward. When you're under stress, you can make bad decisions. Seeing only the negative. Anxious or racing thoughts. Constant worrying, that worrying and stuff like that over things doesn't move you forward. When you have concern, I always say there's a difference between worrying and concern. I'm concerned about you. Now, what are we going to do? I'm worried about you, or I'm worrying about this or that. There's no step forward. I'm concerned about this, and I'm going to do this or that. But the worrying, people don't usually move forward quickly through it. Depression or general unhappiness. And again, I'm going to talk about anxiety today. And a lot of issues have similar warning signs and clues. Keep that in mind. Signs and symptoms, anxiety, depression, other issues. They have a lot of the same signs and clues. So the only way you know what's going on is to talk to somebody or get help. And depression, general unhappiness, anxiety and or agitation. People can get frustrated, they can get agitated. That's cousins of the anger. On that thing, the emotional reaction patterns. You know, when you look at anger, what falls under it? You got the explosive stuff, but similar to that is that people get frustrated, they can get agitated and things like that. It's a hop, skip, and a jump to escalating from there. Worrying, moodiness, irritability, or anger. Feeling overwhelmed can cause people to be stressed. Loneliness or isolation. There's a lot of work being done in our communities now about loneliness and isolation, keeping people in contact with other people, you know, having those relationships and interactions. And nervous habits such as pacing or nail biting. Just clues. May not be anything to it, but it might be. That's the thing about science. We don't know unless we check it out. Some other symptoms and signs and symptoms. Other mental or emotional health problems can be going on. That could turn into stress. Aches and pains. Sometimes people have physical ailments and stuff when they're under stress. They ache, their body, they have pains and things. And you think, hey, what's wrong with you physically? That's why I always talk about resilience and all this stuff is building physical, emotional, and mental health. Physical is in there too. This stuff can affect you physically. Nausea, dizziness, constipation or diarrhea, chest pain, rapid heart rate. Sometimes when people are feeling that anxiety and stress, their heart pounds a little more. It feels like it's going up. Maybe it's not, but it feels like it. Loss of sex drive, frequent colds or flu. You're more susceptible to colds and things like that. You can pick up bugs. Eating more or eating less, changes in appetite. That's something to look at. Again, we don't know unless we check it. Sleeping too much or too little, withdrawing from others, where you used to be talking to people and interacting, all of a sudden you're isolating, you're staying to yourself, you don't have the energy to talk or the desire to do it. Procrastinating or neglecting responsibilities can be a sign or symptom. And here, using alcohol, cigarettes, or other drugs to relax. Negative coping skills, man. You know, that stuff can get you in a jam. Okay, a mental disorder or mental illness is a diagnosable illness. I'm going to talk about when is, you got stress, anxiety, depression, all this stuff. When does this stuff turn into a mental health disorder? And I'm not asking you to become clinicians, but people need this information because it can be the step forward to say, hey, maybe I need some professional help. You know, so a mental disorder or mental illness is a diagnosable illness that affects a person's thinking, their emotional state, and their behavior. These are things we can see. Again, those are the signs and clues. We should think, okay, I see this going on. Something's not right here. We're not diagnosing, but it keeps going on, and it disrupts their ability to work, carry out daily activities, things they're supposed to do, and engage in satisfying relationships. So this stuff affects their whole life or areas of it. You know, you got to think, is there something going on here? Do they need some professional help? And so let's talk about, since we're talking about stress and anxiety a lot, and this is Mental Health Awareness Month, let's talk about anxiety some. Anxiety disorder differs from normal stress and anxiety, okay? This is when it's a disorder. The symptoms of an anxiety disorder are more intense, they last longer, and can cause impairment, like we said, we just listed it, in daily life, i.e. work, activities, relationships. Those all suffer. So anxiety signs and symptoms can be physical, cardiovascular, pounding heart, chest pain, rapid heartbeat, blushing,
fast breathing, shortness of breath and respiratory. Neurological, dizziness, headache, sweating, tingling, numbness. Gastrointestinal can be choking, dry mouth, stomach pains, nausea, vomiting, or diarrhea. And musculoskeletal can be muscle aches and pains like we talked about, especially in the neck, the shoulders, and back. Restlessness, tremors and shaking you might notice, and an inability to relax and calm down and just relax. Some behavioral characteristics here: avoidance of situations, obsessive or compulsive behavior, distress in social situations, or phobic behavior, fearfulness of things. Psychological can be unrealistic or excessive fear and worrying about past and future events. Mind racing or going blank, we talked a little bit about that under signs and symptoms of stress. Decreased concentration and memory. Indecisiveness, irritability, impatience, anger, confusion, restlessness or feeling on edge or nervous, fatigue, sleep disturbance, or vivid dreams. Again, those look like a blend of some of the things we talked about, just stress, right? So maybe they're more amplified, exacerbated, and stronger. But that's why it's tough to see what's going on. See something, talk to them, and sometimes we'll talk about when to link someone to some professional help. But some risk factors for depression and anxiety can be distressing and uncontrollable events, stressful or traumatic events, difficult childhood or a history of childhood anxiety, ongoing stress and anxiety, another mental illness, previous episode of depression or anxiety, family history of depression or anxiety, and a person with a more sensitive emotional nature can be impacted. Those are risk factors. And so a couple of other things I like to talk about is an illness that is life-threatening, chronic, or associated with pain. Chronic pain can be tough. And one of the things we notice with this chronic pain is there's been a shift in the way it can be treated. With the opioid epidemic, some of the doctors have cut back the opioids that they give and things like that. I've talked to people in this chronic pain. They go, hey man, I used to have it under control, I could function, but now it's constant and it wears them out. I'm not blaming anybody for that, but people need to be treated and they need the help they need, because it can lead to some serious depression, anxiety, and some serious conditions there mentally. Medical conditions can be an issue. Side effects of medication, we need to be alert to that too, if anybody's taking medications. Recent childbirth, premenstrual changes in hormone levels, lack of exposure to bright light in winter. I don't know about you all, but I like that sun. And when it gets to be winter, I myself even get a little flat, because I'm just waiting for the sun to come back. It gives me energy for some reason. And chemical neurotransmitter imbalance, substance misuse, intoxication, withdrawal. So let's talk about some tips for building resilience and maintaining hope during stressful times. You guys doing all right?
Yeah.
I haven't worn you out yet, have I? All right, so here, let's go to some tips. What are we going to do about this stuff? Maintaining hope during stressful times. Foster healthy and supportive relationships. We talked about that a little bit. That's why I love a group like this. You can meet, you can connect, you got people to talk to, support one another, but everybody needs that, and it can be a big help. Avoid social isolation and self-medication, because it can lead you down a bad path. The more you do that, you isolate. And look, a lot of this stuff, if it's drinking or drugs, it leads to depression, feelings of depression, and things like that as well. There's side effects of that.
Avoid news stories if they increase anxiety. I don't know, hey, what can I don't need to say anything, do I? Yeah, I hear you. It can wear you down. The news can wear you down, so we need to be alert to that too. And just try to turn it off. I've had to do that once in a while. I can't take it anymore, turn it off. Practice self-care by taking time to relax. You know, take some of the time to rest and recover, I call it. Remember the athlete working, stressing the muscles and stuff? You take your break, rest and recover, then you get stronger. You come back, do it again, you feel better. If you don't rest and recover, you're gonna burn yourself out. I gotta talk about burnout if you want that. I have that too, but we're talking about trying to avoid that. So keep that in mind. Take that time to rest and relax, and don't be guilty about it. Be kind to yourself and avoid comparisons to others in your ability to manage uncertain times. And also reflect on your past successes. You know, look, I've been through something before. I've made it through. Pat yourself in the back. I felt good about that. I feel good about it now. Let's reflect on that. But you know, don't compare yourself to others. Keep working on your coping skills. Build them, practice them, and keep moving forward. Be resilient. And so a couple of other tips here. Maintain routines and habits at work. You got habits that are going on. You know, people say, don't do the same thing over and over. But if it's working, keep doing it. You know, it feels good, it's healthy, it's functional, do it. Get the other habits out that are not helping you and maybe bad, things like that. But if you got some good habits, keep the routines and habits at work. Keep healthy sleep hours. You know, if you're tired, take a nap, get some rest, and make sure you're sleeping at night. And you know, that's another story in and of itself. You know, I've seen people try to take some of these things where, you know, it helps you sleep at night and all this stuff. You know, if you need to see a doctor and get it looked at, you know, if it's really bad. But try to get your mind clear. Tell yourself, I'm going to bed tonight, tell that mind, settle down. Oh, you gonna say something? No, that's one thing with people that stress and everything, it just, anxiety, it just keeps that mind working. And I've heard people say this too. So they say, hey, I'm going to bed tonight, and they say, mind, I'm not talking to you tonight, you stay out of my life, I'm going to sleep. You know, they say no to it. And for some reason, it helps. They say it's helped. You know, put it in its place. Sometimes people need medication and all that stuff. You know, it's an issue, mental health disorder. But just sometimes you can say, hey, I'm going to sleep, knock it off. It's just a pattern. Maintain good nutrition, regular eating hours. Exercise, that's good for you. It can be hiking, walking, whatever, to relax. And it makes you feel good when you do it, man. You gotta get that physical energy in there. Constructive leisure time activities. You got a hobby you enjoy, invest yourself in that. If it's a constructive leisure time activity, do it. You know, and it's fun. You get some reward. I like playing cards, whatever you like to do it. Mindfulness, meditation, and yoga. That can work. That can help calm our minds down, things like that. A couple of other tips here. Examine your emotional reaction patterns. You know that chart I showed you. Look at your reaction patterns and see if there's something that needs to be changed. Am I getting angry? Am I going numb? Or am I quickly saying, hey, here this situation is, let me express what I'm feeling, let me come up with a plan, let me move forward and move to it quickly instead of lingering in anger or the numbness or making yourself a victim. Learn to express your feelings in a useful way. Develop and learn new coping skills. I'm glad to hear today. I hope this helps, but there's other programs too. Control what you can and avoid dwelling on things you cannot control. Sometimes we need to just let some things go and work on what we can. Does that make sense? I always see people going, yeah, I get that. You know, so it must be something to it. Explore community supports. You need help, there's community supports out here. You don't have to do it alone. There's friends and things like that, but there's programs, and you're in one now. LOWLINC is one. That's why I love supporting LOWLINC. It's a beautiful program. And also get professional help if needed. And so helping others, here's the gatekeeper stuff I like to talk about, helping others during stressful times. Helpful things you can say to somebody if you see something going on. Hey, I'm concerned about you. What are you feeling?
What are you experiencing? Those are great questions. I never like the one that says, are you okay? Because what's okay? Everybody says, what's okay? You say, hey, what are you feeling? What are you experiencing? People will stop. You can see their eyes moving. You know, I don't feel too good. Yeah, so they'll let it out if you say it that way. And what are you experiencing? How long have you been feeling like this is a great question. You know, is it just for this weekend or a week or two? Or is it maybe for the last 5 or 10 years? That's interesting information. I can see that you were distressed. I want to help. Something seems to be bothering you. Do you want to talk about it? An invitation to connect and open up. I love this one here. I care. I will listen and try to understand. That's a gift if someone does that for you. I care about you. Whatever's going on, I will listen to you. I'll make sure I understand what's going on because I care about you and I want to help. You know, that's a beauty. And so how to help others? Well, we cannot take away someone's stress. We can offer support by listening. Listening is big. I'm telling you, if you can't make a friend listen to people, you'll have all the friends you can handle, man, because people, nobody listens to everybody. I hear, you know, it's good. If you listen, it's a connector, believe me. Having someone to talk to can make a big difference. Validate feelings and concerns. When people talk about them, validate them. I understand what you're saying. I hear what you say you're feeling and experiencing. You know, let them know they're heard. Offer specific types of help. And you can research resources, things like that. You can help them do that. When to talk to a therapist. Stress can provoke feelings of helplessness and can play a part in feelings of depression. There's no doubt about it. Talk to a therapist if you or someone you know feels hopeless. They're in that, I like talking about that, they're in that deep dark hole. They can't see any light much or a way out to move forward. They have a persistent low mood, or they experience thoughts of suicide. You know, I do a training on that, and it's important. If it isn't going to hurt if someone is depressed big time and you ask if they're having thoughts of suicide, because sometimes they can be. You know, so I do a whole training on that in and of itself. But it's out there. It's a concern in our communities. And if they do, there's help. There's hope. Having a friend, talking to them, that kind of thing. And so if they're experiencing thoughts of harming others, you know, they're angry, they're in that anger state. You know, they're going to get even, things like that. Something to think about. And so I always like to mention this here when you look at supports. I work for Encompass Community Supports. We always promote calling or texting 988 as one option, but we actually have a Encompass Community Support Crisis Services number there that you can talk to, get some help. They work, you know, all hours. You can talk to them and get somebody help and link them to services and things like that. And remember this, just a final thought here. Healthy strategies, you know, we've been talking about coping skills and things like that, actions you can take. Healthy strategies can improve problem solving and coping abilities and help us to maintain hope during stressful times. So I hope this has been of use for you, and I don't mind if you got any questions. I don't mind answering, or I don't know what time we got, but anything else? Yeah, I do like people, you need help, we need to get you linked to some counseling, someone you can talk to, no doubt about it.
Well, we want to thank you so much, Alan.
Yes. Appreciate being here.
We're always happy to have you. He's a return engagement.
Yes.
Yeah, you can be here anytime you want me.
Yeah, yep, so, okay, yeah, I'm gonna go over to the microphone just so everybody can hear, but, still on? Yeah, okay, good. Yeah, so thank you again, Alan. Like, Trish said, we're always very excited to have you come and speak with us, and, you know, I think, the resources that are available, we'll try to get that out and send out the slides. And so we want to remind all of you today to please fill out your survey, because it really helps us deliver these speaker series, and also we'd like to provide feedback to our presenters.